So, welcome once again to Raising the Consciousness of Humanity. I am excited. Today's guest is Doreen May Bray. Hi, Doreen. How are you?
I am wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, I'm super excited that you're here. It's amazing. I came across you because of an email that was sent out, and there was a list of people that were available as to be guests on podcasts. And your name, actually your physical name, popped out for some reason. And then as I read your description, which I'm going to read to the audience now, but when I read your description, I'm like, wow, aligns for the raising the Consciousness of Humanity podcast. So that's why I reached out to you. So I'm glad you're here. And just to let everybody know, first I want tell everybody you're going to love this podcast. And if you can help with my channel and also get Doreen some more exposure, please like, subscribe, and then share with anybody else that you feel inspired to share this message with. I'm very just grateful for any support that we can get, both for myself as well as for Doreen. And so, a little bit about her. Her work centers around the embodiment as a gateway to higher and consciousness. She's been 40 years as a naturopath, mystic guide, shaman, and teacher, and she explores how emotions, physical sensations, and even anxiety or disconnection can be expressions of the soul seeking to be heard and integrated. That's a big one. And I noticed, like on Doreen, on your website, you do retreats. You do, I think there was like lodge retreats, which are great. Courses. I see you have courses for different ages. You also offer one-on-one sessions. So we're going to dive deep into this. I also want to mention to everybody about your book, The Angel and the Avatar. We're going to share links to her website and to her book later below this video. So you'll see that on YouTube below the video in the description box. The Angel and the Avatar delves into the deeper intelligence behind incarnation, how and why the soul chose to enter the body. That's very good. Yeah. And what it means to live in alignment with that choice. That's pretty powerful. I know with your background, the question I first that kind of comes up for me, Doreen, is did you have a spiritual awakening somewhere in your life, or were you born with these gifts? I mean, what was it that led you to this?
I was born with a multidimensional nature. I've always experienced spirit differently. I learned differently than others.
And was this something that um, did you have siblings or other people in your family or mom and dad or anybody else that kind of had a little bit of this nature too, or are you just the odd the odd one that showed up?
My mother was able to see spirits, and she would scream, Doreen, Doreen, come here quick. What's that in the corner? What is it? And I go, oh, Mom, it's just an angel, or oh, it's just a ghost, or so she was afraid. That was the difference. For myself, I just realized that we live in this multidimensional creation, and these things exist all around us, whether we perceive them or not, and they're just doing their own thing.
Wow. So yeah, so having a mom that had a little bit of that gift, I know it's tough with kids because if you're born in a family where nobody gets you and you don't have that support, that must be hard. But at least your mom had a little bit of an understanding. Like you said, maybe she had some fear around it. But what about you know, kids in the neighborhood or growing up? But did you feel like you were not recognized, or did you have that kind of feeling like, how do I figure this all out?
I always believed that everybody remembered their past lives and could see what I saw. It was only when I started attending school, and kids can be really brutal to one another. That's when I realized that I was different.
Okay. So yeah, that must have been hard. Just fitting in.
Yeah, I spent a good part of my life trying to fit in.
Did you, because I know a lot of the audience, there's a lot of people that listen to this that have some spiritual gifts when they're born. Some actually maybe didn't come online until later, and some are still seeking to explore those gifts and get to know themselves better. But the big question was like for you, uh, I can see that sometimes goes two ways. Somebody is seen for their gifts, recognized, and I know early school life is tough, but sometimes people shut that down because they just like they're just like I just want to fit in. So how did it go for you?
It was impossible for me to shut down. So
Okay,
it was more being trying to be the chameleon, so that I didn't stick out as much. Although I'll have to say, teachers loved me.
okay. So teachers could understand you somewhat.
uh, because I could tell them about themselves, I think, more.
Wow. So you were really like what I would say turned on instantly as you were born. And I heard you say, did you understand, like, did you know some of your past lives already?
I was born remembering all of them. Yes.
Wow.
I also remembered my life before this birth in a non physical state. That's what helped me to write my book, The Angel and the Avatar. A lot of the experiences were from memories, even though it has to store, there has to be story because the human brain can't understand the world of the invisible. Even finding a vocabulary that was suitable, because we don't have words for the
Yeah.
invisible realms. So it was a journey in itself to create, but memory is my memory is a good part of it.
Okay. Wow. So would you say, like, I always hear the term that when we incarnate, we come through this veil of forgetfulness. So many of us, including myself, I may have bits and pieces that I kind of sense, but I don't know my past lives. Like I wouldn't necessarily know that or my what you were sharing kind of like you kind of knew your pre-birth plan in a way too.
Definitely.
Wow. So that's pretty tuned in. Now, the big question, which a lot of people sometimes ask, were you born in like a traditional like a family that followed a traditional religion that had a hard time accepting this?
My parents were Catholic, but and they did send me to church, but
Yep.
they did themselves. So I don't think that there was any real stipulations, belief system wise. My father was a bit hard nosed, so when I was probably 9 or 10, I was starting to buy books on ESP and mental telepathy, and he would take them and burn them or hide them. So he was against who I was.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's probably a fear that was in him. And a lot of times our fears as parents are created out of the system or the conditioning, especially religious conditioning. So maybe that's why he was doing that.
I think cultural more. My dad was from the old country, so he believed women should be barefoot and pregnant.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's yeah, I concede that. And even in myself, although I was not as spiritually as aware as yourself, it's I came with a Catholic mom and a Protestant dad. So they called that a mixed marriage back then. But even with that, you sometimes are you hide your gifts, right? You hide in but I would say that you were pretty turned on and you were getting somewhat accepted. And you follow that continuously through your school life into your, later into your younger years and then into what you do now, or was there some point at which you suppressed it and then turned it back on?
So when I was young, I would teletransport myself all the time
Oh,
involuntarily. Um, there were many times where my mom would wake up in the middle of the night because she'd hear commotion in the house. And she tells me time where she got up, she went, she looked in my room. I was asleep in bed. She walked down the hall, looking around the house, look outside the window, and there I am sitting on the veranda. She kind of like, huh? And then walks back down the hall, looks in my bedroom, and I'm in bed.
oh my goodness.
So these things constantly occurred, like I said, involuntarily.
Yeah.
Um, but so my life, my first, I'd say 7 years of my life, maybe 12 years, were extremely out of body.
Mm,
When I became a teenager, I, started to read palms and crystal balls and teacups and, auras. And I moved more in that direction because that was accepted.
yeah.
Um, so, it's been a journey of morphing to be able to be present to the rest of the world in a way that isn't too scary for others.
Yeah.
But say when I reached 50, I finally gave myself permission to just be what I am and not worry about others.
Wow. Which is kind of what you teach because you're helping people in a way understand their soul's calling. And part of that is to be we're innately, I guess, guided or called for, and not worry about others, not worry about the opinion of others.
Yeah, but most people do take that journey of trying to fit,
Yeah,
especially if they are more finely tuned toward their soul and their calling. And that probably is the hardest part because then they are working against themselves and they feel that way. They could feel lonely inside, even though they're surrounded by people. They could feel depressed or anxious because they know that they're not living their true calling.
mm. Yeah, and that's where your work comes in quite a bit. So as I was reading through your website and what you sent me, for your bio, um, and as well as your book. I mean, everything seems to be like, I guess you have a little bit of a medical intuitive sense, like you can sense what somebody might be going through, whether it's a chronic pain or maybe disease or a I mean, I would guess even challenges external to the body, maybe even relationship wise too, right?
So it's not little. I think of myself like a microscope. I can
Okay.
into your cells, into your body.
Oh, wow.
I can. I don't want to say the word diagnose. It's not permissible.
Yeah.
uh, I can see where there's blockages, and through the vibrational frequency of that blockage, figure out what the problem is. I can, because I did study herbology. Actually, I used to grow 30 acres of herbs and medicinal plants. So I can take, say, for you, for example, ginseng would be really good. Not North American ginseng, it's cooling. You would want the Chinese red
Okay.
ginseng. I can take the feeling of that herb, the vibration of that herb, and bring it into a person, and that body will either reject it or go like kind of colorful energy around
Yeah.
it. So like that microscope, I can also zoom out, which means I can look at past lives, future lives, multidimensional lives that the person is living. Um, so it's just a sight that goes in any direction.
Wow. So if a person is really stuck, because I noticed you also offer one-on-one sessions besides the other things that you offer. So if a person is really stuck and quite often stuck can manifest into issues, maybe even a disease or whatever. And but they're lacking clarity. That's something that actually you've been able to help people with.
That's right. Yes.
Now, so everybody who's listening right now, that's probably a lot of those questions are coming up, and I would encourage anybody listening to please put comments below this video because we always love engagement. And we, we we're doing the YouTube collaboration thing, so Doreen will have the ability to also see your comments. But when a person has, okay, they they lack the clarity, do you also help them with their clarity, or is that where they you would recommend them buying the book or taking one of your courses?
Again, my skills go in multiple directions, so I
Okay.
bring clarity. When I was younger, as I mentioned, I read cards, mostly tarot cards. And what I learned from that direction was that if I told somebody in the future, 6 months down the road, they're going to have an accident if they keep on the path they're on. And then I will say, okay, but you can go this direction instead, or that direction, or that. I'll give them many other options.
Yeah.
Single time they headed for the accident.
Wow.
Maybe because that negative seed
Yeah.
was more powerful, and so they naturally steered towards it. Maybe I thought maybe it's kind of like voodoo, like you're cursing
Yeah.
away. So I that's the one thing I don't do is do predictions
Yeah,
of
that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess if a person is inclined, because we're all in a way following a script, and we might have a speed bump on the road ahead, which might be a life teacher in a way, but also there's times where maybe we could avoid that. I got that makes sense to me. So when a person, um, like say, comes to you, and that could be a person with any type of challenge or whatever, that when they come to you, I guess every case is probably different, right?
every person is unique, every
Yeah.
soul is unique, every journey is also.
Wow. And so if a person is, let's say, they're doing a traditional job that just doesn't fit their type, and somehow um, they were conditioned by the world, society, or their culture to follow that path, but they're unhappy, and they may be manifesting challenges within their body or in their life. Um, how, just in general, I know everybody's different, but how do you actually help that individual?
So, like you said, it does depend on the individual, but I have learned that people, if they're really desperate, will take action. It's
Mm,
to help somebody figure out, their healthiest path, whether it's mind, body, soul.
yeah.
Um, it's another to actually guide them into taking action. This is, the old saying, you can bring a horse to water, you can't force him to drink. This is probably the most complicated part that, I can
Yeah.
help. Definitely. The taking action part, though, is on them.
Okay, that makes sense because honestly, I find even in my own life that sometimes if I just stir the pot with doing something different, getting out of a routine, doing something maybe that's exciting, it may seem like it's illogical or way out in left field, but it sometimes makes a change for the better in a way.
Yeah, any habits should be broken up with new a new way of looking, sitting, talking, or moving, because change is the real power behind creation. It is the
Hmm.
only thing we know is going to happen. The habits are us trying to keep things the same, the fear of change, basically. So we just repeat, 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 because within that repetition, there is a sense of safety. It's an illusion, of course,
Yeah.
but all habits come from that illusion.
Hmm. All habits come from that illusion. Yeah. Yeah. Um, that leads me to another question. So today, with so many things going on in the world, somewhat crazy on the main stage of the world, it almost looks like a shake up to wake up in a way. Um, I what do you what kind of advice can you give like people that are emotionally going through stresses, whether it's in their individual life or relative to the outer world? Are there some good practices that you recommend typically that can help anybody that's kind of challenged by what they're seeing on the main screen?
What is.
What
So
is this?
accept what is. If you can't change it, it's happening out there somewhere beyond your control. Then
Hmm.
realize that you placed yourself where you are as a witness. This is your time to be alive, whether you approve or not. But by not struggling with it, by just allowing it to be what it is, you're actually breathing in the essence of creation, which means you're changing it just by being still.
Hmm. Nice. Yeah, just by being still. And with I I always believe that, one of the biggest things is if we get our focus too much on whatever that outer problem is that we can't affect, like you said, it drains our energy, it frustrates us, it gets us to argue with our neighbor or somebody in our family. But then when we start to fall into whatever our passion, our joy, or the things that we're here to shine our light in, then that's like almost like in a different direction. And in a way, like we also animate joy because we're I don't know, shining our light, and that's a vibration. So is that something that you find that, most people can be better off, doing that, exploring what their joys and passions are?
Definitely. I feel that most people don't realize that we live in a multidimensional space.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is a person can be of the lower frequencies, like you said, hate, fear, worry, stress, anxiety, over everything and anything. And they are then attracting and living in a world that creates more faith, fear, hate,
Yep.
cruelty, right? And so they are, what they believe is being brought to them at an insane rate. And that's the frequency that they live on. And when we lift our frequency into joy, peace, even just going outside, taking a deep breath, hearing the birds sing, feeling the trees, the aliveness that's all around you, that elevates your frequency, which means now you're attracting more of the same, more of these higher vibrational people and incidences in your life.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And also, I really myself personally love being out in nature. I think from even a perspective of getting out there, being with the trees and the plants, and even grounding in nature. That's I'm sure a lot of the people that you help and you work with, uh, you probably some of that stuff comes up as far as advice that you give them.
Yes, barefoot as much as possible for grounding purposes. The frequency of the earth then is can go through the body. There is something to be aware of, though. We have free will.
Hmm.
You can walk on a beach, feeling the essence around you, hearing the seagulls in the air, hearing the ocean, smelling the salt air, watching the children play. You can totally be in that moment. And in those moments, you're healing. Or, so that's you're participating, so you're consciously aware. Or you can be in your head, thinking about all the things that you hate and all the stories. And, all right. And in those moments, your free will is being locked into because you have chosen to pay attention to those thought forms instead of the environment you're in. So in those moments, you're not healing. You're just regurgitating the old energies which have created your issues to begin with.
That's well said. You're right. You could be somewhere else, but the same thing's going on right here.
Yes. So you can walk in the woods within nature, great. But if you're in here and you're not experiencing the nature around you, then you have used your free will and you have chosen to be locked in and separated. And
Hmm.
that separation then means you're not receiving the healing frequencies, the grounding, the energy that's around you.
Wow, that's a point. Yeah. I mean, I've even had times when I've been in meditation where you're sitting and you're supposed to be quiet, but somehow I'm realizing the same voice, the same pattern is going on. Um, and I've been in like 45 minutes into the meditation. So very interesting. So that leads me to you see so many people that are in that space, and it you see it with cell phones, you see it with social media, you see it with um, you and I just shared a conversation about this. It's not normal for me, and I'm sure for you and a lot of people to sit behind a computer all day long. To be, under some of the lighting, it's not the same as natural lighting and stuff. If we're so consumed, which when I was a kid, my mom just said, go out and play. We didn't have cell phones. But today you see it's as if uh, the human or the mind is kind of sucked into that device or or that activity online or something's consuming them. And yet they could be standing in the middle of a beautiful forest, but that pattern is still there.
I've seen it. I've, walked along a beach and saw a couple and they were just standing on the beach. They had running shoes on. They weren't even barefoot, but they were standing there, both on their cell phones, just looking into it, doing whatever they were doing. They were not present at all. And I kept walking, and maybe 5, 10 minutes, I could see down the beach. They were still standing there.
Wow, interesting.
But
But
also
that's
something else to think about that. So, the kids' heads are down looking at the cell phone. Your spine is your antenna to the divine and to the core of the earth. That's the energies that flow through you. Uh, when your spine is curved, you're turning inward. So now you're not connected, which means
mm,
okay, you're connected to the cell phone, but you're not connected to this universal energy, this energy that feeds us and nourishes us. It's you could say your spine is the placenta to creation.
yeah, nice. So postures prob that's I think of meditation and yoga, right? That's posture is one of the first things to start off with.
Yes.
So yeah, so that if we're conditioned to look at our devices or not paying attention to our breath, our posture, then a lot of times we are disconnected.
Sure. Think of it this way. If I told you in the room next to you, there's a person who's seriously depressed sitting on the edge of a bed, tell me what posture they have.
Oh, they're going to be caved in a little bit. they'll probably have their head down.
Right. And they're closing in, right?
Yep.
Well, so when we feel insecure, stressed, depressed, any of those energies, what's most important is to open up, not to
Mm,
fold down.
yep. That makes sense. So you teach people even how to do some of those things as well.
Yep.
I just saw an orb fly by you. I'm sure our audience is going to see this. Yeah, I just you got some light there that yeah. So it's your energy or something. I just saw that.
Or maybe helpers. It's all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. So Doreen, exploring in this whole area, to the people that are listening now and listening to this conversation, um, when somebody is saying, I know I'm called for more, I know I'm here for a reason, but yet they still feel stuck. They still feel like I've tried this, I've tried that, it's not working. Or maybe something's breaking down inside of them or around them or whatever. When a person is lacking that much clarity, but yet they have an inner knowing that they're here to make a difference, right? Whatever that is, where do you start with them? I mean, I guess my suggestion would be maybe for them to reach out to you, but or maybe buy your book. That might be a good place. What do you normally like an average person that's listening? What would you say for them to do? What would be a tip?
So the cellular structure of the body
Yeah.
is an atomic structure, and that atomic structure generates a spark, light. Right. If you look at the entire human body, it's blinking on and off all the time, and like a Christmas tree.
Really?
Uh, so if we take all of the cells of the body that's in this pattern of blinking, how much light the person has is linked to how much of the soul that can be integrated in the body, because the body is in most cases low voltage and the soul is high voltage. So if the body is sick or ill, then it's going to the cells take in fluid through the thin membrane wall. It passes back and forth, and that sets up that charge, right?
Hmm.
So then that becomes a cellular charge. Well, if the cells are taking in, say, in the liver, taking in the oils or fats at a different rate, then it's not going to be holding the same frequency as all the other cells in the liver. You get enough cells in the liver that are out of balance, and then, well, we would call that disease. But when we look at the whole body itself, in order to really know your path and walk your path, you need that voltage. But let's say that I have a lot of liver problems and on, and my voltage, my all my cellular voltage is low, but yet I want my soul to integrate my soul into me. I could probably force it, go to a healer, have them put my soul intact. I feel
Yeah.
great 5-10 minutes, and then it goes back to normal because the cells can't hold the light. They're not vibrating at that rate. So it's kind of like you take a TV and you plug it into the wall. It works, right? But take that TV and plug it into a high voltage wire. What's going to
Yeah.
happen?
It'll blow up. Yeah.
So it's the same thing with the human body. So one of the first things I like to look at is the physical structure. Let's try to get its vibrational rate up. That might mean a parasite cleanse. It might mean a liver detox. It might mean a kidney detox. It might need a blood detox. So it's because we live in a very polluted world,
Yeah.
really polluted foods. So I would first look at how to clean up the system so that the cells can operate at maximum efficiency. So then your calling, it comes to you. It's a natural given.
Okay. that makes sense. Yeah, it's like a vehicle. You could put the high octane gas, jet fuel. You could put jet fuel in it, but if it's an old broken down Ford Pinto, it's going to blow up. So
Or another way, put sugar in the gas tank. What happens?
yeah,
It destroys the motor, right?
destroys the motor. Yeah.
This is a motor too, right? We put sugar in this tank.
Hmm.
Yeah, everything's going to goo up, and yeah,
So the physical body and what we do to attune it, like you mentioned, parasite cleanse has actually been something I've been noticing like a lot. Like in social media, you see it seems like it's coming out more than it ever before. Awareness around parasites and ways to treat it from a natural perspective. Um, we'd never heard that from the medical industry, like, but now we're hearing that, and if you just shared it, and then so many other things that are, seem to be coming up where I'm now becoming aware of things that, and honestly, I've tried them because I look at one thing is like in a way, the human guinea pig, right? You sometimes have a feeling about something that maybe that'll work for me. Um, so what you're sharing is that that is probably a big area that you help people with is um, detoxing or clearing blockages that are more physical in nature, so they can bring more of their higher energy or their soul in.
yes.
Okay, and here's another question that came up, just popped into my head. So the Schumann resonance, I guess, the solar activity on the sun, the fact that you see the Schumann resonance of the planet uh, going kind of, it's increasing, and we have a lot of these bursts from the sun, and I get when that happens too, times I get ringing in my ears, or I feel that kind of that sensation. Um, and sometimes it affects my sleep cycles. I know a lot of people have been sharing that. So that seems to me like a lot of higher energy that's coming in. Can that sometimes also be linked to what you just shared? A thing that maybe we're called to to get away from that sugar or or make those changes?
So look at it this way. You have a guitar, you fill it full of sand. Will it vibrate?
No.
Right. So yeah, definitely there is more light coming in. We're in the age of Aquarius,
Yeah.
out forever. So there is more light coming in, but can your body that's full of toxins, heavy metals, and sugar, carbohydrates that are, converting to sugar, all of those foods that, if you think of prehistoric man, they would go, I don't fishing, take that fish, put it over a fire and eat it. Did they eat vegetables with it and, salad and potatoes and dessert? No.
Yeah.
They'd go out and kill a boar or, a buffalo. They'd bring it back, and that's what they would eat. We are adding way too many different substances to our stomach. Our stomachs aren't able to create all of the enzymes necessary for all those diverse amounts of foods. We're getting all kinds of stomach issues. What can't be digested is turning to fat in the body. A lot of times, a lot of people have fatty liver disease because of this. So there's this whole thing around eating and food that is false and that we need to pay attention to. And food is like gas for the car.
Hmm.
Back to that again, but there's only one reason we have a mouth. That's to put the gas in. Uh,
Sure.
so you want high octane for the body if you want high
Yeah.
energy and you want high spirit and high connection.
Yeah. So that makes sense. And so with that, because this has been a curiosity of mine, I've always, I guess, I actually went all plant-based for a while, and at first, felt really great. And I know everybody's different, so we all have, and I'm sure you have so many different people that that you work with that might, you know, I don't know, that their body chemistries may be different, or um, certainly everybody probably doesn't do good with junk food, but when it comes to just as far as people's things that they do eat and take in, I actually discovered that when I took and I brought more meat, and even though I'm very compassionate and I love animals, but I got to a certain point where my body was not doing that great on the all plant-based diet. And actually, I had digestive problems and rashes and things that when I made that change um, and shifted, it it brought more mental clarity for some reason. I noticed that. I also noticed that I started some of those other problems started to clean up too. So would you say that in some cases, I guess with certain people, it's going to, like you said, everybody's different, but do you find that with in some cases that that is even they may have resistance around maybe too many carbohydrates or too much fiber? Like I actually, I don't know. You always hear fiber is the best, but honestly, I think it could have messed me up a little bit.
I have worked with a lot of people that are vegan. Some, do eat eggs, but that's pretty well it. And I also was a vegetarian for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
Uh, so, most of my food was sprouts because I grow it all. And I learned something called oxalates, Oxacalates. Oxalates are really high in a lot of fruit and mostly vegetables. Is what I want to focus on here. Spinach, for example, half a cup of spinach, you get enough oxalates for a whole year. Oxalates cause kidney stones and gallstones. It is what composes kidney stones and gallstones. So I was eating a lot of kale and spinach and,
Oh, wow.
what we're told are healthy foods. And that's where the rashes come from because these are little crystals and your body wants to try to get rid of them. And it doesn't know how to, especially if you're consuming a lot of foods that have them. So if somebody is a vegan, so yeah, I also gravitated toward eating more meat in
Yeah.
order do what's called an oscillate dump to try to clean my system of all the years of over consuming. And okay, so if somebody is on that diet, then I will at least guide them toward low oscillate foods, things like zucchini, squash.
Mm.
There are some choices. Sprouts even have pretty well none. It's when the plant is growing, as it's growing, it's creating more. Because if you think of it this way, an animal can run away from danger, but a plant can't. So these are chemicals in the plant in order to not be eaten because it wants to procreate, like all living
Yeah.
things, right? So it's more figuring out what the person will and will not allow in their diet and trying to work with them in order to pick healthier choices. It's not to completely change their diet if they're not open to that. But, sometimes tweaking here and there can make such a difference in a person's digestion and overall
Yeah.
health.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That does. And honestly, the old food pyramid seems to have never been the best you know way of eating. So yeah,
Hey, listen, just go to a hospital and eat
yeah.
their food. It's made by a dietitian,
Oh wow.
right?
Yeah.
You get food, I won't even feed my dog. Sorry to say, but whoa.
Yeah. And back on the subject of parasites, I once listened to I think it was another podcast where somebody said, if you're a human being and you're breathing, you probably have parasites. So with that, there's a lot of people that maybe they do know or they don't know. if somebody was to do a parasite cleanse, is there anything common that you recommend that could be helpful?
So you mentioned about people just breathing and having parasites. When I was a kid, my mom was born in New Brunswick along the ocean, and so she had an old boyfriend that ended up owning a big fishery, and so she wanted, I guess, to show me off or show him off. I don't know. But anyway, we went there and he decided to take us through all of the processing rooms. The boats would come straight in off the ocean. The fresh fish would go directly through this process. And we entered this room and it was maybe it was full, maybe 100 desks where women, mostly women, were sitting with, they had their hair bound up and white coats on, and they had this lamp and it was blue light, and they were passing the fish underneath the lamp, and they had tweezers and they were sitting there like this, and they seemed to be pretty good at it. And I looked at him and I went, what are they doing? Because they're all doing that, right? They're really
Yeah.
focused on this fish. And he says, oh well, we're removing the worms. He said, we can't get them all, but we just do the best we can, and we certainly can't get the eggs.
Oh my goodness.
That's just fish.
That's just fish.
Right. Now think of cattle and,
Yeah.
so yeah. So this is the world we live in. Everything that is biologically alive has something that wants to eat it. Think of a
Yeah.
tree full of organisms that are constantly eating at it, right? Okay. So I believe that parasites are pretty well natural to our environment. And maybe breathing. I don't really think it's that bad, but
Yeah.
definitely whatever food you eat, even food you could touch, because most of these foods come from tropical countries that are managed by tropical people, and we all know tropical areas are much worse for parasites. At one time, we would travel to these tropical countries and know, oh, maybe we got parasites, but now people from those countries live here, food from those countries come there. Everything is mixed now, in other words. So
Yeah.
what maybe just when you went to a tropical country that you could catch, now you can get it anywhere. I guess kind of like how ticks are now everywhere.
Yeah,
Where
I don't own a TV anymore and I don't watch news, but you still get information. And I'm realizing that ticks, 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 ticks it's like the big topic now.
Well, I walked my dog the other day and I came home and there was 13 ticks on her. I'm like, this has never happened before. I barely ever saw ticks. I'm in Canada. It's cold here in the winter. This was not a thing. Now, yeah. So back to your original question, there are many different types of parasite cleanses. It depends also, on you and your tolerance level. Because when you do a parasite cleanse, you start killing these bodies, and then your body has to excrete the dead bodies. Now, sometimes people have a really large load of parasites, and you really want to do a cleanse in a gentle way, because if you have too many dying too fast, you can get violently ill. The reason is, imagine you have 5 dead bodies, humans, in your
Mhm.
apartment, right?
Yep.
What's going to happen? Well, gas is going to come off the bodies.
Sure.
Parasites are going to be able to start to break it down, fungus, mold, bacteria. So it's the same with the parasites in you. You're starting to kill them, but if your body can't get them and excrete them fast enough, then they're going to be emitting these gases. Fungus and mold is going to grow on them. You might end up with candida or yeast infections, other issues, which would make you very nauseous and feeling really bad.
Hmm.
So you do want to go at a rate that's comfortable for your body. I don't believe that somebody should go through a healing crisis if they're trying to heal.
Okay, good point.
Um, Oh, you could take papaya seeds. In tropical countries, they eat papaya seeds every day because they do kill parasites. Actually, they will dry them, and when they're dry, they look like little hard peppercorns, and they put them in the pepper shakers and just grind it on all the food.
Oh wow. Okay, papaya seeds. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is peppery tasting. So instead of using pepper, they use the papaya seeds.
Wow. So, okay, I didn't know. So you have a wealth of knowledge because your herbal background, the fact that you're a naturopath too. So I would, yeah, I had no idea about papaya seeds.
Yeah, pretty potent. And then, some people crush pumpkin seeds. They will
Hmm.
paralyze the parasite. Then there's all kinds of herbal mixtures that you can take. There's also ivermectin,
Yeah,
fenbid, want to go pharmaceutical. Um, so, there's a lot of choices.
yeah,
I
yeah.
individualized.
Okay, yeah. I actually took the ivermectin. I don't know why. It just kind of was one of those things that kind of came up for me. But it's funny because it was back when you really couldn't get it. And I ended up using the horse paste, not the whole thing, of course, because that's what I mean, just a little
Yeah,
tab based on my weight.
it's the
Yeah,
most.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You just take a little bit of it. Yeah,
yeah.
because I don't know about where you are, but in Canada, ivermectin is illegal. Uh,
Okay.
but you can get it on Amazon as a horse paste. Uh,
Yep,
or you can, if you know people who live in India
yep.
or Costa Rica, there are countries that you can bring them in through.
Okay. But with every protocol, like you said, you can go too rapidly, and that could be like the 10 guys dying in the apartment, right? So the too rapidly could cause some other issues. And so it's a protocol that could be very helpful, but not necessarily to just flood the system and rush right into it.
Yeah, you want to monitor. I remember this couple that decided because they were vegan, they took 6 weeks to slowly, become carnivores. And when they became true carnivores, then they said that their BO smelled so bad. They couldn't stand each other, basically. They were changing their clothes 3 or 4 times a day, so they stopped eating meat. So I said, but you were detoxing. That's why you were stinking, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes, you have to go through the unpleasantness, but it's just to understand that your body is just doing the best it can to convert, whatever you're giving it into something useful.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense. I think sometimes also we're so conditioned to believe we want an instantaneous change or an instantaneous healing,
Right. Well, that's the pharmaceutical industry that's given us that illusion.
which actually is an illusion because it can also give us side effects and other things that, yeah, and it may not be the instantaneous thing that we're expecting.
Well, it will relieve the pain or whatever it is at the moment, but it doesn't get rid of why you have it. That's where
Mm.
why do you have it? And let's work at the base. Otherwise, you're never changing it. It's just going to grow worse because that's your body's alarm system going off saying, "Hey, hey, got a problem here," and you just mask it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So, what else can you share with the audience that you feel that might be good practices, kind of like what you just shared with the parasite cleansing or any other thing around the body? But something maybe you're seeing commonality in maybe right now with people. Is there anything that comes to mind?
Wow, there's so many things. One is please look up. I see people, even if they're not on their phones, they're walking, looking at the sidewalk, or, they're not here at all. Uh, I live in a small community, and yet still very few people ever see me walk by. I try to smile. I do smile at everyone, but, they don't even see it most of the time. So it's more about, when you're out there, see the trees, feel them, feel the grass and the flowers, smell the air, become present to your life. Look at it this way. If you think of a happy time in your life, pick one. It has a smell, a taste, colors, sounds. it's full bodied experience that
Mm.
where you're really present to that moment. Now think about a time that you weren't present, just, trying to get from A to B. You probably don't remember any of it.
Yeah.
Right? It's gone. So how much of your life is just gone? You have no memory of it. It doesn't make any sense to be alive and not be alive.
Right? Yeah. Doreen, that's so well put. That that is that experiential part of life, and like you said, being outside and yet not having the inside recognize the presence of the outside. That 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 just deep feeling of even the breeze or the sunlight or the birds chirping.
Exactly. I know people who go out hiking and their only thought is to get to the end of the hike. They're not enjoying any of it. They're like rushing through, the faster I can go, the better I feel, or I don't know what they're telling themselves, but they're not present. When I go for a hike, I'm noticing, well, I like wild herbal. So, I'm noticing all the plants. I also pick wild mushrooms. So I'm looking for them. I'm scanning what kind of trees are in the area. Being fully present is such a joy. And I remember every one of those hikes because being fully present.
Hmm,
So, when you ask about looking for purpose, I believe the first way to find purpose is to fully engage in life.
nice. Yeah, fully be present with life. And because without that, you're probably blocking it, because of the mental consumption of not being in the now, not being fully present. You can't tap into whatever that innate purpose is.
Exactly. It can start small. When you visit somebody's home, if you think back, do you remember the color of the wall? Do you remember the carpets? Do you remember the pictures on the walls or their positions? Do you remember, what their cupboard in the kitchen looks like? What things they have? Are you present? And so sometimes just starting to be present in small situations like that can make that presence grow when you're in other situations.
Hmm. Just by noticing, yeah, simple things like that. I can see that. I can see that helping and smelling, hearing, seeing, feeling. So many people that have watched um, this podcast are also energetically sensitive. They're empaths. So I'm sure when they go into environments, there's probably even that element that's being felt. Um,
Yes. Sometimes, though, empaths will block their other senses if they feel that they feel too much. So they kind of shut down. This can be problematic. An empath, and while I'm an empath, I would not be able to do the things that my system is able to do if I wasn't one. Uh, what I've learned is that shutting down the system is not the direction to go. It's opening it up, because if you open it up, then nothing is disturbing you. Shutting it down or saying something overwhelms you is you trying to safeguard yourself, trying to create some kind of orb around you to protect yourself from the outside world. But we're created from that world. So we're actually stopping creation from being part of who we are.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And so, Doreen, with with your gifts, going a little bit in that direction now, with your gifts that you have, do you well, share with the audience, like, how does that work for you? Are you yourself have a certain clair that's more dominant, that maybe you're seeing an image in your third eye, or you're hearing, or are you working, again, like the questions that come up are like, are you working what you would say more from your downloading from your higher self, or are you got your guides always present? What, how is like how does it kind of work through you when you actually, especially when you're helping other people? Like what is your process, I guess?
Presence.
Presence.
So when I say that, I talk a lot about embodiment, and to me, what that means is that so if I look at a cell, for example, the cells in your body have these little, we'll call it hairs, sensors all around them. And their job is to sense everything inside that's going on inside. So it knows how to act and react. And it also senses everything external to you. As a matter of fact, your cells know where every star in the heavenly bodies are. It's sensing everything, and their job is to help you navigate this realm. So, in my world, I'm embodied. So, I'm connecting to my cells, and my cells are telling me what's going on.
I see.
So, my
I,
cells, your cells, my cells will speak to, whoever cells are, around me. And I mean, everything is energy first and foremost. So, this is a communication channel.
yeah. And your communication channel works not only if the person's physically right there in your room, but also online, right? Like
So,
this.
yeah, at one time I didn't think so. Well, presence is powerful, face it,
Yeah.
and I was the only power. But one time, some monks from the Himalayan mountains got a hold of me, and they were asking for healing. And of course, they don't have money, but they have presence. So I said, okay, I would love to help you, but what I would like as an exchange is I will send energy to different body parts, different colors, and so on and so forth. And after I do that, I'm going to write an email. It was way before text messages. I'm going to write an email and send it to you. After you finish receiving and, everything has happened, then I want you to write an email and send me what happened. And, so neither of us read the email, there's time and space at that point. When I got the email from them, exactly the colors I was sending to the exact body parts was what they were telling me in the emails back. The sensations they were having were the sensations I was creating to, maybe heat in one area of the body, cool in another. Everything. And I was really amazed. And that taught me that there is no time and space.
Interesting. Yeah. Especially even with monks, because I'm sure monks in the Himalayas weren't on a Zoom broadcast call with you.
Yes,
Just an email.
definitely in some way. Yes. I also learned that I can store energy in objects. Say, one of the monks couldn't be present at the same time that I was sending. I would ask them to place an object, which normally I could tell what it was, and something that could hold energy, whether it be a crystal or a rock formation that of course is crystalline in structure, and I could load it, maybe kind of like something that we load these days, like a key. And they could receive it when they were ready to receive.
Okay.
But I mean,
Nice.
if you think about, so when I lived in Toronto, I met this woman, Betty Robertson, and she was working with the police to find lost, stolen children. And I worked with her a little while. I couldn't continue. It was terrible. What you could experience as a psychic, connecting. But you would just hold a doll of what a child, a sock that the child had worn, and you pick up on those frequencies, and like that, you were able to see where she was and her surroundings, and you could even switch and become the perpetrator in order to see, the surroundings. And but just to say, just an object and how much energy it holds, and that connection to the person.
Wow. That's amazing. That's an amazing gift, that's and like I like you shared earlier, if I was to ask the question is how do people maybe not have that level of attunement with their gifts, but at least a little bit more where they're at. Your answer is probably the same. It's presence, right?
I feel everybody is, I mean, I feel I'm the same as everybody. You know, I have a heart and, you know, two
Yeah.
lungs, two kidneys and a stomach and whatever. I believe we're all born with the same gifts. That's
Hmm.
not really gifts. Then if you look at it that way, it's human nature. It's in it within all of us. It's just, I feel that some people's attentions have been brought into the external world, achievement and, you know, looking good to the parents or friends or neighbors. And we're so busy with all of those little things that we're forgetting the base from which we experience this reality. And that base then is the one that needs to be held and moved toward. And yeah, I feel that each and every person has the opportunity to soar, we call it that,
Yeah.
uh, in their infinite light and infinite potential.
Well said. Wow. And so with that, Doreen, I feel that everything you shared today was really spot on. And I really appreciate you being on the show. I just want to let people know once again that and I'm going to share the links for your website as well as for your they can find your book. And is there anything else that you'd like me to share that I guess you have your Facebook and also your LinkedIn. Do you want me to share that as well? So people
Have a YouTube channel.
and a YouTube channel too. So we'll make sure all that is shared.
Thank you.
And yeah, so anybody that's listening to this message today, to this podcast, and to the wonderful things that Doreen has been sharing with us, if you feel called to reach out to her, please do. Please like and follow her YouTube channel as well. And the uh, the wisdom that you shared, I guess from what I can understand is being able to be here now in a way. It's to be able to like you said, we all innately have these gifts. It's a matter of coming back into the presence, or coming back into that present moment, and and yeah, that just to me that makes because we're so society or whatever has got us kind of focused on everything else, or that maybe we feel that is important, and we're always under the gun to make that next appointment, do that next thing, or check off the next thing on our task to-do list or whatever. Because sometimes we just don't sit with the self.
Well said.
Thank you. Well, anything else you want to share with the audience?
It's really quite simple. A person just needs to release all the tension in their body, you know, let the shoulders drop, let the stomach relax, uh, and sink into their body all the way down to their tippy toes. That's what groundedness is. And by doing so, you are no longer feeling alien or that you should be somewhere else because that's home.
That's home. Well said. Beautiful message today, Doreen. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate this time, this conversation, and all that you shared.
I appreciate you, Ron. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye now.